For 85 minutes on a humid Wednesday night in Atlanta, England held the dream firmly in their hands. The players could almost feel history slipping into their grasp. Every successful tackle, every clearance, and every attack brought them one step closer to something generations of English fans had waited to witness. They stood just minutes away from reaching their first FIFA World Cup final since 1966, a moment that had haunted the nation through decades of painful exits, penalty shootout heartbreaks, and near misses. Across England, supporters dared to believe that the long curse was finally coming to an end. The atmosphere inside the stadium was electric, while millions watching around the world were already imagining the celebrations that would follow. But football has a cruel way of reminding everyone that nothing is guaranteed until the final whistle. Then came 7 unforgettable minutes that completely changed the story. What had looked like England's greatest triumph suddenly transformed into one of their most devastating collapses. Momentum shifted with incredible speed as Argentina sensed weakness and attacked with relentless confidence. England's organized defense began to crack under the pressure. One mistake led to another, emotions took over, and the calm that had defined England's performance for most of the night disappeared. The dream that had taken 85 minutes to build was destroyed almost instantly, leaving players and fans frozen in disbelief. Yet the drama extended far beyond the goals themselves. This wasn't simply a football match anymore. It became a chaotic battle filled with controversy, emotion, and endless debate. Every major decision from the referee was questioned. Every replay sparked new arguments on television, social media, and among fans inside the stadium. Some believed crucial fouls had been ignored. Others argued that VAR failed to intervene when it mattered most. Tempers exploded on the pitch as players surrounded officials, desperate for answers. Managers protested from the sidelines, while commentators struggled to keep up with the madness unfolding before their eyes. By the end of the night, the result was almost overshadowed by the controversies that followed it. The intensity between England and Argentina added another layer to an already unforgettable contest. This rivalry has always carried more than just footballing importance. Every meeting between these two nations brings memories of legendary matches, unforgettable goals, controversial moments, and decades of emotional baggage. That history was present in every challenge, every celebration, and every confrontation during the semifinal. Neither side was willing to back down, and the tension grew with every passing minute. What began as a tactical battle eventually felt more like a street fight, where pride mattered just as much as victory. When the final whistle finally arrived, silence replaced hope for England. Players collapsed onto the grass, some staring into the distance while others fought back tears. Argentina celebrated wildly, knowing they had survived one of the most dramatic matches in World Cup history. Fans around the world were left arguing not only about the comeback, but also about the referee, VAR, and whether justice had truly been served. England's dream had lasted 85 unforgettable minutes. But history will remember the final 7. Those 7 minutes didn't just decide a football match. They created a story that will be debated, replayed, and remembered for generations. The fixture itself, England versus Argentina, is one of football's most emotionally charged rivalries. Every meeting between these two nations carries decades of history, unforgettable moments, and enormous pressure. It is never viewed as just another football match. Instead, it becomes a contest shaped by legendary encounters, controversial decisions, and the weight of expectation from millions of supporters. The rivalry has produced some of the sport's most iconic images, from breathtaking individual brilliance to moments that continue to divide opinion decades later. Every new chapter is immediately compared with the classics that came before it, ensuring that emotions are already running high long before the opening whistle. Much of that intensity can be traced back to the famous 1986 FIFA World Cup quarterfinal in Mexico City. That match gave football 2 moments that remain etched into history forever. The first was Diego Maradona's infamous hand of God goal, a decision that sparked outrage and remains one of the sport's greatest controversies. Just minutes later came his astonishing solo run, weaving through England's defense to score what many still consider the greatest World Cup goal ever scored. Those 2 moments perfectly captured the complicated nature of this rivalry. One side remembered injustice, while the other celebrated genius. Since then, every England versus Argentina clash has carried echoes of that unforgettable afternoon. making each encounter feel like another chapter in a story that refuses to end. When the 2026 World Cup draw placed England and Argentina on opposite sides of the tunnel in Atlanta, anticipation exploded across the football world. Tickets disappeared within hours. Television audiences reached enormous numbers, and fans from both countries arrived expecting another unforgettable battle. Inside the stadium, the atmosphere was electric. Every tackle was greeted with deafening cheers or furious whistles. Every decision from the referee was scrutinized by thousands inside the arena and millions watching around the globe. The tension was so intense that even routine passes seemed to carry enormous significance. It felt less like a normal semi-final and more like an event destined to produce drama before a single ball had even been kicked. From the opening whistle, the match quickly developed into a physical and psychological contest. Neither team was willing to surrender possession or allow the other side any rhythm. Challenges arrived hard and often. Players argued after almost every stoppage, and emotions steadily boiled over. Argentina attempted to disrupt England's flow with aggressive pressing and constant pressure, while England responded with equal determination. The game became increasingly fragmented as fouls interrupted play again and again. Every collision intensified the atmosphere, leaving supporters convinced that something explosive was only moments away. Instead of flowing football, the contest became a relentless battle of endurance, discipline, and mental strength. As the physicality increased, attention inevitably shifted toward referee Ismail Elfath and his handling of the contest. Every major decision was dissected in real time by commentators, pundits, and supporters. One early challenge, involving an elbow from Enzo Fernandez that many believed deserved a yellow card, immediately became a talking point. Critics argued that failing to caution the midfielder so early allowed the physical intensity to escalate throughout the match. Others believed the referee was simply trying to avoid losing control by issuing an early booking in such a high-pressure semi-final. Regardless of perspective, every subsequent decision was viewed through that same lens, fueling accusations, debates, and endless discussion long after the final whistle. In matches of this magnitude, referees often become part of the story, and this encounter proved no different, with every call adding another layer to an already unforgettable rivalry. The true turning point of the match was not Argentina's equalizing goal. It was the tactical change that came nearly 20 minutes earlier. Up until the 65th minute, England looked confident, disciplined, and dangerous whenever they broke forward. Their defensive structure frustrated Argentina, while every counterattack carried genuine threat. England weren't dominating possession, but they didn't need to. Their game plan relied on absorbing pressure before striking quickly with pace and precision. Each transition forced Argentina's defense to retreat in panic, creating the kind of open spaces England's attacking players thrive in. For more than an hour, the strategy was working almost perfectly, and it appeared England had found the ideal balance between defending and attacking. Much of England's attacking danger came through the speed, energy, and movement of players like Jude Bellingham, whose ability to carry the ball through midfield repeatedly unsettled Argentina. Every time England recovered possession, they looked to move forward with purpose rather than simply clearing the ball away. Their wingers stretched the field, forcing Argentina's defenders to make uncomfortable decisions. Should they press higher and risk being caught behind, or stay deep and allow England room to build attacks? That uncertainty gave England valuable opportunities throughout the match. Argentina may have controlled long spells of possession, but England consistently looked capable of creating the clearer chances whenever they launched a quick counter-attack. Then came the substitution that changed everything. As England protected their narrow advantage, Thomas Tuchel made a defensive adjustment designed to strengthen his team's resistance. Fresh defensive legs entered the match, and England shifted toward a back five formation. On paper, the move appeared logical. With time running out, reinforcing the defense is a common decision made by experienced managers. However, football often punishes teams that become too cautious too early. Instead of improving England's control, the tactical switch altered the psychological balance of the game. The team instinctively dropped deeper, defended closer to their own penalty area, and became increasingly reluctant to push players forward. Whenever possession was regained, that change handed Argentina exactly what they wanted: complete control of the match. With England retreating further and further into their own half, Argentina began circulating the ball with greater confidence and patience. The pressure became relentless. Every clearance came straight back, Every attack forced England to defend another dangerous cross, another pass into the box, or another wave of sustained possession. Rather than forcing Argentina to worry about counterattacks, England gradually surrendered the initiative. The midfield stopped pressing as aggressively, the defensive line sank deeper, and the entire team became focused solely on survival. In football, defending for extended periods against elite opposition is incredibly demanding, and every additional minute increases the likelihood that one mistake will prove costly. Against a team filled with world-class attacking talent, inviting constant pressure is always a dangerous gamble. Creative players need only a single moment of space to change the outcome of a match, and sustained possession naturally creates more opportunities for those moments to appear. England fought bravely, blocking shots and making crucial interceptions, but the momentum had completely shifted. Confidence grew inside the Argentine team while anxiety spread through England's players and supporters. By the time the equalizing goal finally arrived, it felt less like a surprise and more like the culmination of growing pressure. Whether the tactical adjustment was the decisive mistake will remain a subject of debate, but few would argue that it dramatically altered the rhythm of the contest. Sometimes a single substitution changes not only the formation on the pitch but also the belief inside both teams. And from that moment onward, the entire match belonged to Argentina. No discussion of this unforgettable semi-final would be complete without addressing the biggest figure on the pitch, Lionel Messi. Regardless of which team a supporter follows, players like Messi demand attention every time they step onto a football field. Even in the later stages of his career, his influence extends far beyond goals and assists. He possesses a rare ability to slow the game down mentally while everyone else seems to be speeding up. As defenders chase the ball and midfielders scramble to close passing lanes, Messi appears to operate on a completely different timeline. His greatest weapon has never been raw pace or physical strength. It has always been his extraordinary understanding of space, movement, and timing. Throughout the match, England worked tirelessly to limit Argentina's attacking opportunities. For long periods, their defensive organization forced Argentina to circulate possession without creating many clear chances. But as the second half progressed and England retreated deeper into their own half, the character of the game slowly changed. Every defensive adjustment created new pockets of space between the midfield and defensive lines. Those gaps may have seemed insignificant to most players, but to someone with Messi's football intelligence, they represented opportunities waiting to be exploited. Instead of forcing risky dribbles or impossible passes, he patiently observed the changing shape of England's defense, waiting for exactly the right moment to influence the game. Great footballers often speak about reading the match several moves ahead, almost like a chess grandmaster, anticipating an opponent's strategy before it unfolds. Messi has built an entire career on that ability. While defenders focus on the immediate danger, he constantly scans the field, memorizing the positioning of teammates, opponents, and available passing lanes. Every movement is calculated. Every touch serves a purpose. Rather than rushing the attack, he allows the game to come to him, knowing that sustained pressure eventually creates mistakes. As England became increasingly focused on protecting their lead, Messi's patience became even more valuable. He understood that anxious defenders naturally drop deeper, midfielders become hesitant to press, and communication begins to break down under relentless pressure. When the equalizing goal finally arrived in the closing stages, it reflected the growing momentum Argentina had built throughout the second half. Sustained possession had gradually stretched England's defensive structure, forcing players to cover enormous spaces while remaining compact. The constant pressure eventually created the opening Argentina had been searching for. Whether through clever movement, accurate passing, or relentless attacking waves, the breakthrough felt like the reward for persistence. England had defended courageously for much of the evening, but the physical and mental demands of absorbing attack after attack had become almost impossible to sustain. Then came the decisive moment deep into stoppage time. Football often produces moments that seem almost impossible to predict, where one touch, one pass, or one piece of vision changes everything. The winning move showcased the remarkable quality that separates world-class players from everyone else. A perfectly weighted delivery found its target at exactly the right moment, bypassing exhausted defenders and exposing the smallest gap in England's defensive line. After more than 90 minutes of relentless battles, tackles, and pressure, the match was decided not by strength or determination alone, but by exceptional technical quality and composure under immense pressure. It was the kind of moment that reminds supporters why football remains so captivating. One instant of brilliance can outweigh an entire evening of struggle, transforming heartbreak into celebration and ensuring that a single match will be remembered long after the final whistle has faded into history. When the final whistle echoed around the stadium, the emotional contrast could not have been greater. Argentina's players celebrated with uncontainable joy, embracing one another as they realized they were heading to another World Cup final. On the opposite side of the pitch, England's players stood motionless, many staring into the distance in disbelief. Some dropped to the grass, while others tried to console teammates who had come within minutes of achieving something generations had dreamed about. It was a heartbreaking ending to a match they had controlled for so long. The journey had demanded enormous physical and mental effort, and by the closing stages, exhaustion was visible across the squad. Yet fatigue alone could not fully explain how the match slipped away. The deeper question surrounding England's defeat extends far beyond tired legs or individual mistakes. On paper, England possesses one of the strongest footballing structures in the world. The squad is filled with elite players competing at the highest level every week. Their domestic league attracts many of the world's finest talents, and the national team benefits from world-class coaching, facilities and resources. Despite all those advantages, the same painful pattern has appeared repeatedly in major tournaments. England often performs brilliantly for long periods, but struggles to maintain complete control when the pressure reaches its highest point. Instead of continuing to dictate the game, they gradually become more cautious, allowing opponents back into contests that once seemed firmly under control. Argentina, by contrast, demonstrated a different mentality throughout the tournament. Even when facing difficult moments, they continued to believe they could find a solution. That confidence did not guarantee victory, but it influenced the way they approached adversity. Rather than allowing setbacks to damage their belief, they remained patient and trusted their ability to change the game. Every successful team develops its own identity over time, and Argentina's recent tournament performances have reflected resilience, composure, and an unwavering confidence that no match is truly lost until the final whistle. That mentality became increasingly visible as the semi-final unfolded, especially once momentum began shifting in their favor during the closing stages. For England, another difficult chapter now leads to the third-place playoff, a fixture that often feels emotionally complicated for players who had been dreaming of lifting the World Cup trophy just days earlier. While professionals will still compete with pride, it is impossible to ignore the disappointment of missing out on the biggest stage. Meanwhile, attention across the football world turns toward the upcoming final, where a new world champion will be crowned after an unforgettable tournament. England supporters, once filled with hope, are instead left reflecting on another campaign that came painfully close to making history. As the disappointment settles, familiar questions inevitably return. Were the decisive moments the result of tactical decisions? Did pressure influence performances during the final minutes? Or does the challenge run deeper than any single manager, formation or tournament? These are questions that football supporters, former players, and analysts will continue debating long after this World Cup ends. One difficult defeat rarely tells the entire story of a national team, but it can highlight areas that require reflection and growth. England undoubtedly possesses the talent to compete with the world's best, and their journey to the semi-final demonstrated that quality once again. The challenge now is transforming those promising performances into lasting success when the stakes are highest. Until they find a way to consistently close out matches under immense pressure, the search for another World Cup triumph will continue, along with the hope that the next opportunity finally brings